Everyone, this is Brian Forbes, and you are joining Black Fact.
I'm back in the studio, y'all.
I'm back in the studio, y'all. And that right there.
I'm speaking volumes right now because y'all don't understand. Try to do all of this and be.
Try to do all of this
out of the
and
studio
be.
and still bring a show.
Out of the studio
and make it good. Hopefully.
And make it good. Hopefully.
The content is good enough so that regardless, whenever you do to me, regardless to whether or not I have all the fancy bells and whistles, becomes a good show. That's very, very important.
Becomes a good show.
Val Wells, I see. Thank you for checking in.
Val Wells, I see. Thank you for checking in.
Always count on you, Val.
Oh, Val.
Always count on you, Val. If my voice seems a little shaky today,
I messed around and caught a cold.
Now,
I messed around and caught a cold.
You watched my show while I was in Chicago. I made the mistake of leaving Texas.
I made the mistake of leaving Texas,
and I did not take a jacket. Well, what do you know about that right there? So, because of that little foobar, I had to get my thing together. I'm checking out my audio, y'all, making sure everything. Yeah, I had to rearrange some stuff and change some stuff and make some stuff work, you know, and do some things a little different. If y'all wondering what I'm doing right now, I'm checking this to make sure my audio is good, because what I don't want is for y'all to have a bad experience with that. Let's see, we're making some adjustments here. Had to come in and reset some stuff. Y'all let me know when it sounds good now. Show me some thumbs up. I think we might be in business here right now. Okay, yeah, that's better. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, we got a good show tonight. But what we're gonna talk about is a lot of what's been going on, and I'm at the point now, because man, I'm gonna tell you, I messed around and made the mistake of going down this rabbit hole. That rabbit hole is that guy Vinny Politan from Court TV. He put up a post asking people what they thought if the prosecution had done a good enough job to make people sway their opinion. Or I'm sorry, the defense, if they, made people think twice about wanting to convict Derek Chauvin. And the thing is, the overwhelming majority of people are still like, yeah, no, he guilty. You got a lot of people who are looking for lesser charges to be guilty and not the bigger charges. But after reading some of the comments, I realized that a lot of people suffer from severe levels of cognitive dissonance. It's like no matter what you show them, I won't even call it cognitive dissonance, only because it's deliberate. I know that they're not that ignorant. I know that they're not that stupid. I know that the only reason they're saying what they're saying is because there's a white man on trial for the murder of a black man. And it's as simple as that. There's nothing that anyone is going to ever do that will convince them any differently. They don't care. They wouldn't care if he put 2 bullets in his head while he had him on the ground with his knee on his neck. They would still say Derek Chauvin is not guilty. So with that said, we already know where this is going. So ladies and gentlemen, I want you to not forget to hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the share, the like, all of them buttons. Y'all know I say all of them buttons because I can't never remember all of them. Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, Periscope, Instagram, and YouTube. Don't forget about me, y'all. I need more followers. I need more people who are interested in what I'm interested in. This is important to making this show the success that I hope for it to be. And I hope I've been able to provide you all with information. I try as hard as I can to bring something to the table that you may not have seen or heard before. That is my job. That's what black media does. We got to keep you up on game. We got to make sure you know what's happening. And with that said, let me tell y'all, is everybody aware of the 13-year-old in Chicago who was shot by the police at about 2 or 3 in the morning? I don't have the exact time because I really wasn't going to go too hard on this story. But y'all had to forgive me. Like I said, I'm fighting this cold. We're going to work it out. Here's what happened. The cops, and this is where I kind of get upset with the media sometimes. I mean, if you're going to tell the story, tell the whole story. So apparently, the police that came to a shots fired call, right? They came to see what was going on. I'm not going to play the video. I've been watching it all day. I'm tired of looking at it. I'm sure y'all have seen it too. They came to a shots fired call. And when they got there, two people who looked, I guess, suspicious, I don't know, were on the scene. And the police gave chase. And when they gave chase, they got in after a 21-year-old and who was at the time a 13-year-old that they weren't aware was 13. So he was chased down an alley, and he, at the time, attempted to ditch a gun that he had, threw it behind the fence. The cop said, turn around. And when he turned around, instantaneously, the officer shot him one time in the chest. And he succumbed to his wounds. Now, the first thing the media did, and a lot of people jumped on this bandwagon, and they were like, oh, they shot a 13-year-old. Oh, my God, they need to be put in check. Listen, I'm all for police reform, but let's look at what this really was. It's 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. Here's a 13-year-old out running the street, out here straight kicking it with the homies. Police get on him, get on both of them. He take off running. He got a gun, shots fired call, now remember. And he ends up dead. Well, first thing is this. Why is your 13-year-old tail out at that time of morning? Well, it turns out that apparently the kid's parents, mother, had been working very diligently to try and, I guess, get a hold on him. Now, I don't know if that's even true. And here's the reason why. That would be a really good story to protect yourself. But here's the thing. They say he sneaks out of his window and runs away, and he's been reported missing before. Now, before I even heard really any details about the story, while I was in Chicago, I happened to be on the block one day. Y'all know when we in Chicago, we just call it the block, wherever we came up from. I'm on 79th Street. I'm on the block. A couple of the fellas was out there chopping it up with me. Now, and I'm going to tell you something else, too, that kind of disturbed me a little bit after I thought about it. I'm out here on the block with all these cats, and I think I was probably the only one out there that don't have a body. Y'all know what that means, right? And then that made me start thinking about statistics. Statistically speaking, if you go and you look down your list of friends and family and people that you know, can you list off multiple individuals who have at some time or another committed a murder in their life? I think that's pretty insane, actually. I think that number is very, very unusually high. Let me put it that way. Anyway, so one of the guys said, and again, this was before I did any of the homework. He said, oh, no, that wasn't, he said, no, that was justified. And I said, how so? He said, well, that kid was in training. And I said, really? He said, oh, yeah, 13. He was out there putting in work for the gang. They was teaching him the ins and outs, the gang ways, which way to run, what to do after he popped somebody. But it was said from the scene, I got this later on, that I guess the 21-year-old is the one that put in the work, and he handed the gun to the 13-year-old to take and run with. Because, of course, if a 13-year-old gets caught with a gun in Chicago, even if he committed a murder, he will be back on the street by 18. It's going to be a rare thing, and that's if he get caught. But unfortunately, he played a stupid game, and he got a stupid prize, and now he's dead. But my point is this. For those of you that are from Chicago, you might remember a story from several years ago. There was this kid. They used to call him Yummy. I think it was Yummy, yeah. Who was a gang hitman. He was 11 or 12 years old. Everybody knew him. He was a straight up killer. And he ended up eventually getting caught up by his own people, and they killed him to keep his mouth shut. This is gang culture in Chicago. It's not new. This is how things go. All of these people who are not from there and who are all around keep going on about, oh my God, they shot a 13-year-old. Listen, all things ain't the same. Now, police misconduct, police using excessive force, that is a thing, but this doesn't apply. So I don't think there's going to be anything coming of it. And I'll tell you another thing that I found really, that got me to thinking about. So I called my cousin now that I'm home, and I said, hey man, watch your back out there. You know, they're going to be showing this video over the next couple of days of this kid getting shot. And the first thing he said to me, man, they ain't going to do nothing. Ain't nobody going to do nothing about that. And I was like, you don't think so? He said, nah. He said, you know, first of all, they ain't got the numbers for that. Secondly, they not going to get our support. Why? The reason why is because back when things blew up in Chicago before, even though it was a lot of looting and rioting, they turned their backs, the Hispanic community, on the black community and basically shot a few people who, if they came across certain streets into their neighborhood, they was busting caps. They was sending people home with bullet holes in their car and all kind of stuff. So if there's a battle to be fought, they'll be fighting it on their own, from what I understand. Now, these are people who are well connected and affiliated, who know these things. I'm just repeating what I heard. So I'm going to use the word allegedly over everything I just said. Now, I feel bad for that young man because he never had a shot. I mean, he never had a chance. His parents failed him. The streets failed him. The system, the society failed him. And now he's dead at 13. And for what? You know, it's really sad. Now, look, y'all, on Monday show, y'all not going to want to miss Monday's show. Because, of course, you know it is the eve of 420. So, since it is going to be 420 on 419, I'm going to give an extensive education on marijuana and the history of marijuana, how it became criminalized, and why we are where we are today. So y'all ain't going to want to miss that. That's going to be a fantastic show. So just remember, Monday show, 419. It's going to be a bomb show because we're going to talk about marijuana. Did y'all know that marijuana was actually spelled with an H and not a J prior to, I don't know, us getting a hold of it? Isn't that amazing? So moving forward, right? I'm guessing that most of you have seen the video of this musclehead guy who decided to tell this young man that he did not belong in his neighborhood. So with that said, I want you to watch this video and pay attention. I'm gonna show you a couple of things throughout this video just to point them out.
Hey, they've already been called. They're just waiting. You know what? Maybe you should hang on a little longer. We'll see how it goes. Then we won't have to get the report by ourselves.
What is it you're doing here? Then walk.
Well, you've been here like 15 minutes now.
Let's go. Walk away.
Keep walking.
Walk away. Walk away right now. You need help? You got this in front of you.
Now, you notice how he's telling him, walk away right now. You don't belong here. Walk away right now. Who are you? Check him out.
I didn't hit you. There's a difference between pushing
You
you.
were the aggressor, buddy.
You're aggressive on their neighborhood.
Walk back.
You better walk away. You
Now,
walk away.
that right there, that's an assault charge off top.
You
But let's continue.
Right now. Walk away. Walk away.
Walk away.
Check it out. You either walk away or I'm going to carry your ass out of here.
Now, I want you to think about the sense of entitlement that this guy has to have to think that he has the right to tell another man where he can and cannot go. It appears to me he's on a public sidewalk.
What do you want to do? Or what? What are you going to do? Let's go. Walk away. I'm about to do something to you. You better start walking. You better start walking right now.
You better start walking.
You're in the wrong neighborhood, motherfucker. Get out.
Now, right there. You in the wrong neighborhood, MF. Now, how does he determine that he's in the wrong neighborhood if that's not just straight out racist? You don't know that man from a can of paint. How do you know he doesn't belong in that neighborhood? How is he in the wrong neighborhood? Would somebody please explain that to me? I know.
Get out.
Let's keep going.
Where? Where's your house? What's your address?
Maybe we should walk you home.
Now he's asking him for his address. And where's his house?
You want to bet what I can do?
I live here.
Okay,
Right
what's
now,
your
you're
address?
harassing the neighborhood.
That is none of his business.
So check it out. We are a tight-knit community. We take care of each other.
We are a tight-knit
No
community.
longer in your ass, 'cause I have never seen you before.
In other words, we don't have no black folks over here.
Why does that even matter?
See, he got that slave catcher mentality.
You know what? Get the hell out of my face. Get out of my face. Check it out, motherfucker. I ain't playing.
He said, get out of my
You need to
face,
get your ass
man.
moving, or I'm gonna move you.
Get your ass moving or I'm going to move you.
I'm about to show you what I can do.
This is America. America.
Walk away.
I'm walking. You keep following me, sir.
There's only one way
And
out
he's
here.
steady following him and agitating him.
You want to bet? Walk away.
All right. So, with that said, there is actually a sequel to this video that I'm sure you're going to enjoy. I know you're going to enjoy it because this guy seems to think that he owns the whole neighborhood. Well, it turns out that, the neighborhood decided they was going to come out and make some decisions too. So they did this. The sound is low because that's the way the video came, but this is the protest at his house. These people showed up and showed out. They want justice, and when do they want it? They want it now. So, this fella, I ain't gonna call him a gentleman, who attacked the black man in his neighborhood on his street, just so you know, this fella is a drill sergeant in the U.S. Army, stationed at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. Well, it turns out that he has subsequently been reprimanded by the military. In fact, they're talking about demotions. The funny thing is, now they have actually closed off the whole neighborhood because they don't want people, showing up and showing out anymore. They've had about enough, I guess. So they can't take no more. Anyway, Regina Freeman, you're absolutely correct. She said he needs to be discharged, and I agree. I agree 100%. Tina Marie, yes, unity. We get together when we need to, and that's what matters. We need to see more of that. And I'm gonna talk about that later on because we got people out here who still think that protesting doesn't matter, and I can prove to you that it does. Now, the coup de grace to this situation. So this guy, since he decided to show up and show out the way he did, it now turns out that he has had to move his family and flee for safety because these protests overnight began to turn violent, and they busted the windows out of his house and began to do those sorts of things and vandalize his property. So, needless to say, he's running for his life now. And the military is not backing him up. They are, in fact, looking to reprimand and discipline him, which doesn't fully explain what the possibilities are in that regard. But like I always say, it ain't never no fun when the rabbit got the gun. So, Sergeant Pentland has also been arrested for third-degree assault. And the Army is, of course, considering the demotion. You know what? Now, let me show you something. See, that third-degree assault is only going to get him a $500 fine and about 30 days in jail. Which, I guess that's fitting. Because he needs to be brought down a few pegs. His arrogance. We're going to talk about that arrogance as we go through this show today. See, because this show revolves heavily around the excessive force, which requires a lot of arrogance, and dehumanization of black folks. See, this is why they're able to do what they do, because they don't see black people as humans. They don't see black people as people. This is why they're so easily, they move in these directions so quickly and so easily. But according to this extra arrogant soldier, the young man was harassing the neighborhood. He actually said that. That was a thing. He was harassing the neighborhood. Where they do that at? How do you get to harass a whole neighborhood? Anyway. And of course he lived there. See, this is what's that food name in Florida? This is that all over. We can't have that. We can't have that happen again, y'all. Okay? Now, oh, and also, well, the military, they made it clear that they don't condone his behavior that he displayed. And of course, it goes against their creed and their motto and all that kind of stuff. And now, apparently, it's also being investigated on a federal level as a potential hate crime, because you can't tell somebody, oh, you don't belong in my neighborhood, when you have no other criteria other than the fact that he's black, because you wouldn't have said that to anybody else. And see, it's funny how, white folks say things and they don't realize what they're saying sometimes. But he may very well know. He's in the military. You can't tell me he doesn't know. He knows. So, we know what it was. We know what he meant. It's as simple as that. And he ain't going to get around it. Now, speaking of police overreach and arrogance, Army Second Lieutenant Canon Nazario, who was pepper sprayed by the police at the gas station, is now suing them for excessive force. And of course, that cop lost his job, rightfully so. But what I couldn't figure out is, how did that become a felony stop? I watched the body cam video from the time it started, where they were still in the car coming after the guy. And for the life of me, I could not figure out what constituted a felony stop on this vehicle. What was it? Now, they got him pulled over, weapons drawn, yelling at him, get out the car, get out the car. The man was afraid. I don't blame him for being afraid. Look at the climate we live in. You would think that these officers would see what's going on in other parts of the country and wake up and say, you know what? Let me not get myself in a situation today. Nope. Arrogance. That swell that they get from having a gun and a badge, and the authority bestowed upon them by the system to do as they please. Unchecked. See? And even if it's not unchecked, we'll never know, because they're going to keep it amongst themselves. Now, this guy made me wonder, how is it that whenever we see these felony stops on TV and on, shows and on the news, what I want to know is, why is it always black folks when it's a felony stop? Why is it always guns drawn when it's black folks? Because let me tell you something. I have seen a ton of videos of white people literally raising 9 kinds of hell with the police. I saw a video the other day of a white guy sitting there with his gun. Police walked up to him, told him, get out the car. You got a gun right there. He told them, it's my constitutional right to have his gun, and you can't tell me no. Cop said, no, you got to get out the car. He said, I ain't got to go nowhere. You ain't even told me what you stopped me for. He argued with them for a minute. The cop told him, I'm going to put the dog on you. He said, yeah, you do that, I'm going to kill you and the dog. Cop said, you don't want to do that. He said, oh, but I do. Listen, y'all, it's called white privilege. It's called the ability to do as you please and nobody can stop you. And most of those guys have one of these. Wait a minute. Oh, damn. Most of those guys own one of these. Now pay close attention, y'all. White privilege, y'all. I'm gonna give me one of them cards. I told y'all before when we make jokes and we talk about these things. I've said before, when you start getting applications, don't put on there that you black. I don't care what kind of application it is. Put on there that you are a white woman. You identify as a white woman. Period. They can't tell you that you can't and that you don't, that you're not. And if they try it, that's a lawsuit. But guess what? Nobody can look at a piece of paper and judge you and say something about who you are or where you're from because they have to go by what's on the paper. And I'm dead serious. I'm deadly serious. Now, these guys, like, the cop, when he pulled this guy over, he told him, because man said, well, what's going on? He said, you about to ride the lightning, son. And he just made all kinds of threats and said all kinds of unnecessary things. But needless to say, thankfully, that cop was fired. Now, this is Windsor, Virginia. Windsor, Virginia, period. I'm going to be honest with y'all. I'm not a fan because Virginia, they ain't real friendly. Let me just put it that way. Not from my experience. I won't go there unless I have to. So, now, that brings me to yet another bit of shenanigans. The company, Simon & Schuster, announced that they will not be distributing a book written by a fellow by the name of Jonathan Mattingly. In case you don't know who Jonathan Mattingly is, let me tell you. This is one of the cops who was involved in the raid on Breonna Taylor's apartment, where she subsequently ended up dead. This is the officer who was shot in the leg by Breonna's boyfriend. Now, Simon & Schuster says they refuse to be bothered in the distribution of the book that has been published by Post Hill Press. Now, Post Hill Press has decided that they're going to go forward with it regardless, and it's supposed to drop in the fall. Now, news of Mattingly's book drew online criticism Thursday, including from a Kentucky state representative, Attica Scott, who was a Democrat, and she wrote on Twitter, "People love to profit off black pain and tragedy. It sells. And I have nothing but to agree with her." In a statement to the Associated Press, a publicist for Post Hill Press said, "The company supports its authors' free speech rights and that Mattingly deserves to have his account of the tragic events heard publicly." Now, check this out, y'all. The name of the book. Let me find it. I don't even know if I should say the name of the book. I don't want to give it no airtime. Y'all know what I'm saying? I don't want to give it no airtime at all. But at least if I tell you, you won't be tempted to buy it. Shoot, I can't even find it. Anyway, it's basically supposedly an inside look at the events of that incident and where the story is going to be told by this officer. Now, y'all know, how many times have I said, until the lion becomes a scholar, the story is always going to be that of the hunter. It's always going to shine well on the hunter. In this case, he is the hunter. And he's telling his side of the story where her side cannot be told because, do I need to state the obvious? She's no longer with us. Now, her boyfriend, Kenneth, what's his name? Kenneth, y'all forgive me. I'm a little slow today, y'all. We ain't 100%, but we getting there. I got the best nurse on the planet right here with me. She makes sure I get back on my feet. She want my money, y'all. Okay, Kenneth Walker's his name. Now, Kenneth Walker shot Jonathan Mattingly in the leg when he came into the apartment. Now I want you to try to imagine this. You at home in your bed, sleep. Even if you ain't sleep, you laying at home in your bed. And you hear your front door coming open. And you know ain't nobody got a key, ain't nobody supposed to be out there, but they coming through your door. What would you do? I can tell you what I'm gonna do. They got off lucky because he only fired one shot. Now, the thing was, they told lies to get the warrant in the first place. A no-knock warrant. They're trying to get rid of that. They're trying to put legislation in place where no-knock warrants no longer exist. And I don't think they should because, number one, the Constitution protects us from this sort of nonsense. Now, when a warrant is issued to the court-appointed liars that we normally call police officers, they think they have carte blanche to do whatever they want to you and through you. So, this goes back to what I always say when we talk about, officers. I hate to be one of those people that say, oh, all of this is that, or all of these are this, and you try to, you don't want to put everything and everybody into a basket. But y'all, I ain't gonna lie, the problem is this. We live in a time where my personal belief is that you have to have some humanity. Why are we allowing people who don't have humanity, our best interest at heart, people who don't even see us as human, who dehumanize us so easily that when one of us dies, the first thing they do is blame us for our own death? Isn't that amazing? It's not amazing, but because it's so normal. And we've let it become normalized, and that's insane. This right here, this is the guy who... Let me see. Anyway, here's my thing, y'all. If you got 1,000 cops, right? And 5 of them are bad. That means the majority of police officers are good people and they're going to do their job correctly and they're going to do the right thing. But if those 5 officers act up, cut up, act a fool, then they are equally as guilty if they don't tell on those officers. That makes it where there are no good cops. Now, not only is this guy, did he make a mistake? Now he's trying to capitalize off that mistake. Like, really, bruh? You went and ruined lives, not just a life, lives. And now you want to capitalize by writing a book. Now, here's the even crazier part. Last October, this same cop filed a lawsuit against Kenneth Walker for battery, assault, and emotional distress. He claimed he was entitled to damages for medical treatment, pain, and trauma he suffered after he was fired upon by Walker. Let me get this straight. You bust up in my crib on a lie. You get what you got coming. And now you mad? And you arrogant enough with your dehumanizing ass to come after me for some money after you destroyed my life? Hey, let me tell y'all another little secret. Anybody who ever sues you in court, especially if you know they're wrong, always file a countersuit. You know why? Because if they lose and you can prove that you've been damaged by their harassment or by the trouble that they are trying to cause you, or in this case, by the fact that his life was ruined by this cop, you get paid. You ain't got nothing to lose by filing a countersuit. Any good lawyer will tell you that. So he thinks he's entitled. And that right there is the problem. He's entitled. Typical, arrogant, Caucasian behavior. Now, of course, he waited until after Walker filed his lawsuit because he knew he was going to get paid. So now he think he's entitled to a piece of that change. I think that's pretty amazing. But, you know, the state of Kentucky, well, the Commonwealth of Kentucky dropped all the charges against Kenneth Walker permanently. So they can't come back after him for any criminal negligence. But his lawsuit involves malicious arrest and a bunch of other stuff because they should have never been there in the first place. And if that stuff ever comes to court of why they were there, especially in a civil case, because civil cases are way different than criminal cases. Civil cases don't take that much to win. All you got to do is prove that none of this would have happened if it wasn't for you. And that's exactly what he's going to do. But I ain't going to lie, y'all. Would I be okay letting it all go? I don't know. At some point, I guess, where you have to let certain things go. But, you know, that's crazy. That's crazy. Anyway, he'll be getting paid his damages for false arrest, malicious prosecution, and assault, among other things. There'll be some more in there. This is arrogance at its best. And this cop's attitude is exactly why Breonna Taylor's dead. That same arrogance, that same, I don't care about you or nobody else. So what? She's dead. It ain't got nothing to do with me. I'm a cop. I can do what I want. That's why these cops continue to do the things that they do, because they don't think it's going to catch up to them. Won't be me. You won't catch me. But I'm going to say this. I want people to stop saying that protests, marches, and riots don't work. But I want you to understand, I don't condone rioting because it destroys far too many things. I don't condone what comes with all of that. But I want to be clear that it actually serves a purpose. See, in case you never noticed, black people have been asking for a long time for fairness and justice. And if you notice, every time you ask, it falls on deaf ears. It's always fell on deaf ears. Something catastrophic or tragic must happen in order for the bar to be moved any. That's the world we live in. Now, because of that alone, we are stuck in perpetual purgatory in the wake of those who would rather not see us equal to them because they've been taught through learned behavior that they are better than anyone else. And guess who gets to pay for that? Us. See, racism is not a black people's problem. That's a white people's problem. They invented it. They created it. And the only way it's going to ever go away is if they make it go away. But they're not going to make it go away because then that would destroy the structure that they've put in place that benefits them financially and otherwise. So, since those financial windfalls play in their favor, much like this cop who wants to now sue Kenneth Walker to get a piece of his pie, it's always about the money. See, and that's what this is about. It's always about the money. It ain't never about black or white. It's always about the green. Y'all have heard me say that a million times. I'm gonna say it again tonight. Always about the green. So he's gonna try it. I hope he fails at it. And it is what it is. But now, back to the protest part. Do y'all realize that before you heard Breonna Taylor's name, this thing had been going on for months already? And it took that protesting, those loud voices, those screams from the balcony to finally catch on for people to start understanding and paying attention to what happened. And then eventually there is no justice in this only because she's dead and she won't be back. But the fact is, without the stand against oppression on many levels, we're going to always get whatever they decide to give. Power concedes nothing without demand, ladies and gentlemen, and I think you know this. We've talked about that on more than one occasion. Now, because it took so long for this thing to get out here, all people did, they got out in the streets. They wore out shoe leather and broke in a few stores. I'm a little tired of hearing people, oh, they don't need to be looting and rioting. But guess what? I don't know if y'all noticed, but lately, things have been moving forward. Police officers have actually been being convicted for their wrongdoing. Police officers are actually being fired and unprotected by their unions for misconduct, for excessive force. This is what needed to happen 50 years ago. But it's starting to happen now. Why? Because nobody's asking. I don't know if you paid attention, but they have put up so much fortification around that courthouse in Minnesota that is ridiculous. It's like an army camp. In other words, no matter what the verdict is, they like straight up, you're not tearing this up this time. When I left Chicago, it seemed like every store on the south side and some on the north side was boarded up. I couldn't even go to Walgreens. They didn't let the gates down and everything. 2 squad cars sitting in the parking lot. And when I talked to my cousin last night, he said, oh, they didn't already let the bridges up downtown. You won't even get into downtown. Anywhere the bridges ain't up, you ain't getting in. So, because they gonna block the street. If you ain't got business in there, you're not getting in there. See, it used to be we would tear up our own stuff. We stopped tearing up our own stuff, start tearing up their stuff. Now, let me say it again. I don't condone rioting and looting. But I have to admit, it has a purpose. When you hit them in their pockets, they start listening. It's messed up, but it's true. I had to learn that. Every portion of these protests, riots, and everything you're seeing has its purpose, despite how you feel about it. The fact is that they have a purpose. But we also have to remember now, at the end of the day, we really don't have any rights. We work on what we think are, but we know that even though it's written on paper, you can't change the hearts of men. And you can't seek justice from a system that was never designed to protect you. This system was never set up for us. We're operating on the tail end, on the fringes of everything. But we don't see that yet. Well, some of us don't see that yet. Back when that whole Constitution and all that was written, let's not forget, we were still in chains, y'all. The name of that book that the clown is writing, The Murderer, it's called The Fight for Truth, the inside story behind the Breonna Taylor tragedy. Boycott the bookstores, y'all. Kick them to the curb. Don't spend your money fooling with these people. If they want to try and capitalize off the pain of black folks, they deserve to not be supported. And it's just really as simple as that. And I'm burnt on that whole thing. Now, I say and have said that there are no good cops. Well, let me say this. There were. Most of the cops that are good have been fired. Why have they been fired? Because they were willing to cross that blue line and do the right thing. So I want to introduce you to this young lady right here. Now, she has been re-entitled to her pension. That cop's name was Greg Kwiatkowski, I think it is. Now, he was a rogue officer. He was a rogue cop. She attempted to stop him. And what happened? She was reprimanded for it. The man who he was choking was named Neil Mack. And by the way, Neil Mack was handcuffed at the time of his choking by this cop. And the thing is, if we look at the George Floyd situation, you have to ask yourself, and I'm sure she still feels like she did the right thing, because look what happened to George Floyd. She may have very well saved that man's life. And you know, back then, wasn't no body cams, wasn't nobody to tell the other side of the story. So, there you go. That's how that program works. You got to be on your square. Now, this man has thanked her multiple times in public because of, what he's done for her. But the crazy part is, we had to wait for technology to catch up to us close enough so that we have a witness of our own. And it has to be electronic. It has to be a camera. Because, of course, when black folks say stuff, it don't mean nothing to nobody. So, yeah, he was choking him out. White cops say, no, I wasn't. Guess who they gonna believe? Not her. That's that white privilege. That's what that is. That's that white privilege, y'all. He had one of these in his back pocket. Just a dirty cop, period. But she was brought up on disciplinary charges and fired. And she, by the way, is a mother of 5. But here's the thing. She was a good cop. She risked it all to do the right thing. Whatever happened to that? Whatever happened to serving and protecting, not brutalizing and murdering? George Floyd died a slow, painful death in front of everybody. And there are people out here who are actually trying to justify his murder. Look, y'all, I was saying earlier, I went down this rabbit hole and followed a thread on Facebook that from the guy off of Court TV. This country has a tremendous amount of racists, which we knew that anyway, but it's just really tripped out to see the things that they say and how they love to victim blame. And it's just, the way it is. What are you going to do? So with that, they're going to always find a way to make it George Floyd's fault. In fact, I saw so many responses, one after another. Oh, he was going to die anyway. Oh, he was on drugs. He had a bad heart. He was already going to die. He was going to die. He probably would have been dead if he never touched him. That's their whole mantra. It have nothing to do with 9 minutes on your face with a knee in your back. He was going to die anyway. Really? That's what we doing now? Well. Anyway, so this other cop, right? Oh, and by the way, when she got fired from her job, she was fired months before she was eligible for her full pension. So they screwed her out of her money. The charge that they put on her was, and this is what the police said, use of force against a fellow officer. Ain't that something? You can't stop a fellow officer from killing somebody without getting fired. What does that tell you? See, it goes back to that whole slave catcher thing we did about the police, where the police are now. See, their attitudes haven't changed any. You got all these people who keep saying things about George Floyd. He should have just complied. He should have just did as he was told. He should have just showed Massa his papers so he could travel on the road. He should have just did what Massa said and then they wouldn't have hung him. Because that's what this amounts to. But check this out. Greg Kwiatkowski, that cop in Buffalo, he was later sentenced to 4 months in federal prison. That was back in 2018 for using unlawful and unreasonable force against 4 black teenagers. Ta-da! What does that tell you? They already knew what it was, but they let him keep going. And did they say anything about reinstating her or straightening out her money? Not at all. She had to keep fighting. But one good thing came from what she did. She helped write new legislation in October of 2017 that the mayor signed into law, and it's called the Duty to Intervene Law. In other words, if a cop sees another cop doing something he ain't got no business doing in regard to a human being, they have an obligation to step in and stop it. So I say justice delayed but not denied, because she's now been reinstated and she gets her pension, which, by the way, is worth over $800,000. So she's about to come up on a mill. Quick, 2 times. And with that, let me see. Where's my picture of her at? She looks pretty happy right here. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is Carriel Horn. Stay looking for her, because hopefully she'll get involved in some other legislation and some things that we need, coming down the road. But here's the thing about this, though. Here's the sad part about this whole situation. The only reason that she's getting the airtime and the airplay now is because of the George Floyd case. George Floyd has become a martyr in multiple ways. If we did not see a George Floyd scenario, would we still be wondering if she was going to receive justice? with all of the police cases that are coming up now, with officers being finally charged properly with misconduct, excessive force, and all the other things that go with it, murder, you would think officers would wake up one morning and say, you know what? I don't want to become a statistic today. But that typical Caucasian arrogance will definitely keep them from doing that. So, what are you going to do? Ladies and gentlemen, it's going to come a time where the dehumanization that takes place that allows these people to not see us as human, to criminalize our skin, to make us into monsters that we are not, it has to end. It's going to end one way or the other. It's just a matter of time. And I believe that we are closer now than we've ever been to making those changes. The newer generations are coming up. Most of the people I see who had such negative attitudes about the Chauvin case, old white men. Now, y'all know we had that discussion before where we talked about old white men. And I've always said that until they and their attitudes are no longer a part of the equation, a lot of things will take time to change. And that is changing. It's happening. And I'm finally glad that it's happening. And I hope that our children and our children's children will be able to come up in a world. You know, there's going to always be people that want to set themselves apart, and that's fine. But I want it to be where the last thing our children have to worry about is being treated some kind of way simply because their skin color don't match. They ain't got the right complexion for the connection. I got a problem with that. Hold my children and hold me to a standard of my character, not my color. But we know there are many who that's just impossible. Because in their mind, we'll never amount to anything, and we'll never be on their level, which is fine. Cognitive dissonance is a real thing, and that's cool. They could be that. They could be that all they want. As long as they stay away from me. I'm cool on that. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say that this is it for tonight. I can't believe I made it this far because I feel like crap. But it's okay because the show must go on regardless. And I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to keep my consistency up no matter where I am or what I do. That's why I did the show on the road the other night. I enjoyed doing that too, by the way. I wish I'd had my technicals in better order, but it's okay though. Because I want to make sure that I bring the information, black media, baby. I bring the information to you as I see it, as I get it, and sometimes get it from you. In fact, many of you, thank you so much. Y'all contribute so much to this show because you provide me with lots of information and links. That is a beautiful thing. Thank you. We want to try to make the show better as time goes on. So, let me just say, thank you all very much for tuning in. I love you. This is The Black Factor. I'm Brian Forbes. Don't forget to get your copy of The Black Factor at bmforbes.com. My technical staff ain't on deck right now. They can't put it in like I normally do. But ladies and gentlemen, y'all have yourselves a wonderful evening, and we going to get up out of here. Love, peace, and chicken grease, y'all. Good night. Oh, but don't forget, Monday show. We're doing a history on cannabis, a history on marijuana. You are going to want to watch that show. I got some deep, deep stuff to show you. Don't forget, hit the share, the like, hit the subscribe, hit all the buttons. Don't forget. And thank y'all for telling me to get well. I appreciate the hell out of that. And I'm going to work on that right now. Y'all have a good night.